guys. We are trying something new today. And so because of that, we are just trying something new. So y'all check out what's going on.
Yeah. So our guest today, I know I told you guys on Wednesday that we were going to have a guest, and I wouldn't tell you who it was, and I've given you some hints for the past couple of days of who it was. Our guest is Keith Lowther. He is a mortgage broker with Homestar Financial, right? Financial? I always want to say something else, but I don't think it's Homestar Financial.
No, it's Homestar Financial.
Okay, good. So what we're doing today is we're going to be going over whatever the state of the mortgage market is, because it's fluctuating daily. And Keith actually just got off a meeting with all of his financial gurus over on his side, and he's going to give us like literally up to the minute updates on this. So if anyone has any questions, I've got my phone here in front of me, and I can tell him what the questions are, and so we can get you guys your questions answered. So Keith, you want to tell us kind of what you just learned a little bit?
Sure. So the most important thing to know is that the mortgage industry is still functioning. We are still out there. So mortgage, real estate, all those businesses, real estate closing attorneys have been deemed essential businesses, and they are important to the economy. So everything from that perspective is still moving along. We are still writing loans. For us, March was the best March that we've ever had as a company. And half of March was impacted heavily with the quarantine and coronavirus. But what we are seeing is the purchase business is still strong. Refinance and cash out refinances, there have been some differences across the board. One of the things that people may have heard about is regarding appraisals. And can appraisers get out there? Are appraisers working? Appraisers are working depending on the type of loan program. In some cases on purchase transactions, they may accept, they're going to want to see generally a full appraisal. There are some options there for exterior only appraisers or appraisals. Those are
We had heard about that.
Yeah, we had heard that they're not even getting out of their cars. They're literally just doing a drive-by appraisal.
Those are allowable in some circumstances. It's really going to depend, and it is a case-by-case basis, and some of it's going to depend on what type of transaction it is. If it's a cash-out refinance, a full appraisal is going to be required. They're not going to allow, or at least right now, they're not going to allow a drive.
Question.
Yes.
Our question. I had heard that they're not doing anymore, that they've kind of put a stop to the refinancing market. Is that okay?
No. Refinance is still out there. It is still available. Now, what was hurting the refinance market for the last 2 or 3 weeks, the mortgage-backed security market has been crazy, and the rates have been all over the place, and the price of the rates has been going up. Conversations that we were having with borrowers in the middle of February versus the middle of March were completely different. Whereas you might have had someone at 3 3/8 in February, now they're looking at 4.5 in March. And so for some of the refinance transactions, that didn't make sense. Now in the last few days, we have seen mortgage market pricing stabilize somewhat. Rates, they're not where they were. They were never at zero. That was one of the common misconceptions when the Fed lowered the overnight rate to between 0 to 0.25. The mortgage market isn't tied to that federal funds rate. Mortgage markets follow more the mortgage-backed security market. So that has all stabilized a little bit. The Fed is still purchasing treasuries and helping to support that market, but they're not buying at massive volumes where basically they were the only buyer in town. And so allowing the rates to tick up a little bit will ultimately make the mortgage market stronger, but refinances are still available. Rates are still at historically low levels. So
What are y'all seeing
those
for
are all
rates
things-
right now?
Yeah, what are the rates right now?
I'm seeing anywhere, I mean, it really depends on credit score, income, what the value is, what the loan to value is, how much down payment, if any. The higher or the lower the down payment amount, the higher the rates are. But I think in some cases you're going to see anywhere from 3.5 to 4.5. And I would suggest if you were to get a mortgage right now, a 30-year mortgage, even at 4.5, even 5, wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. It's still a very good rate historically.
So now, you know, Keith, you and I and Stephanie were talking about before you got online how one of the bigger problems maybe with showing job security, I guess, or showing that you're working.
So one of the things that has come out in the last couple of days, and we talked about this on my earlier call, was verification of employment being
Gotcha.
done within 3 days of closing. And in some cases, what I believe this one came out yesterday, they're talking about doing paycheck verification, having that final the pay stub immediately preceding the close date. So if you get paid on a Thursday and your closing date is on a Friday, they're going to want to see that paycheck to help confirm that you are still employed. For self-employed businesses, they're going to want to verify that the business is still active, that it's still open for business. There's a lot of self-employed borrowers out there who may not be able to see customers for a variety of reasons. So those are the sorts of things with employment verification. If the company's closed and we have to get a verification of employment, there are some processes there in place to be able to verify that it's coming from a legitimate source. It's coming from the corporate email, from the payroll department, or whoever is authorized to do that. So there are options in place to work with this. Closing attorneys, the state government has been really good about taking steps and recognizing that this is an essential business and how do we work within the constraints that we have. One of the things that has come up is, and I don't know that this applies across the board, but in some counties, if the title search can't be back far enough, they're asking for the seller to provide a copy of the owner's title policy that they got when they purchased the house. That'll
I
be
saw
with your
that.
closing document.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So if you're thinking of buying or you're thinking of selling, now would be a good time to try and decide where in the attic or in the basement that box is that has those papers in it.
So we have a question that someone asked, and it said, if you were thinking of refinancing, and why would you do that right now unless you're in a really high interest rate?
One of the biggest reasons for that is, what if you had if you have a reasonable amount of equity in the property, but you've got a lot of revolving debt. You know, you're servicing a lot of debt every month, credit card debt, car payments, all that. If you could roll that into a mortgage and reduce your overall, you know, by debt consolidation, reduce your overall monthly outlay of cash, I think that's one of the biggest areas that we can help with right now, even if your rate doesn't change. If you're paying mortgage insurance,
Right.
you can get rid of, and you've got, you know, and you're at a 20% equity position, you can get rid of mortgage insurance at that point. That could save you $100 to $150 a month. So I think the answer to that question is, don't focus on just the rate. The rate is just a number. Look at the big picture of how much is the payment, how much are your total debts, is there an opportunity there to improve your financial situation and to improve your cash flow, or potentially if your cash flow situation's good and you do consolidate your debt into one payment, take that savings and apply that to your mortgage and knock years off your mortgage and save money, increase your wealth over time. And you'll be surprised, the numbers are very significant.
And what I've heard, kind of going into this a little bit, is a lot of people are talking now with what the government's doing, and all of the media outlets are saying, if you don't have the money to make your mortgage payment, call your mortgage company and they'll push it off to whenever you've got money again, or they'll put it on to the back end of the loan and all kinds of stuff. But from what I've heard, that actually hurts your credit doing that. Is that the case?
So forbearance can potentially, depending on how these things are going to be reported. And I was reading something yesterday that there will be a note, whether it's with the mortgage servicer or what, that, impacted by COVID-19. Now, how will that be reported to the credit bureaus down the line? How will that be scored? What impact will that have?
Nobody knows.
We don't know at this
Yeah.
point. I think if you look back historically to 08 and 09 with how short sales and foreclosures were reported, there was a little bit of difference of opinion on if they were reported the same, if they affected you the same.
Yeah.
These are answers we don't know. But what we do know with forbearance is not payment forgiveness. So if that forbearance period is 60 days, what that means is that in 60 days, those payments that you haven't made for the last 2 months are due right then. So forbearance is not loan modification.
Right.
Not an automatic, we're just going to it's not payment forgiveness. You don't just get to skip those payments and never make them up. They don't necessarily automatically go to the end of the loan period and extend the terms.
So the better deal would be for these people that they are still working, but everything is getting a little tight, try to refinance instead of doing the forbearance.
There's a lot of, every one of these cases is going to be
Different.
a case by case scenario. But what I can say is, if you're in a position where you need to talk about options with your servicer, reach out to your servicer early, ask the questions. What does this mean? If you don't understand it, ask again. Make sure that you're clear on the terms of what that forbearance is and what the expectation is for you to make those payments and catch those up. Are they going to be spread out? If you've got the money and you can make the payment at the end of the forbearance period, or is it something that they're going to take the amount that you're past due and divide it up into 12 payments, and so you're going to catch it up in 12 months? There's many different ways that can be done, but I think what a lot of people are hearing when they hear forbearance is forgiveness, and it is not the same thing. Yes.
I love how he just was like on the ball.
Okay, so also then we're going to see probably some people who have overbought. They had very good jobs, and all of a sudden those jobs, they're sitting home because whatever. For those type of people who see that they are going to have a problem in a month or two and decide that they want to sell and buy something else, what do they need to get together, or what do they need to make sure that they do before they get under the gun, I should say?
Before they decide to put the house on the market and sell it, and then go under contract and be really stuck, is reach out to a lender. Have them call me. Let's take a look at where they're at and, run their credit. Let's look at their job situation. If they are in a position where they've maybe got more house than they can deal with at the moment, and they do want to sell, now's the time to look at it before they start making decisions. I think the most important thing, you pay your mortgage payment. If at all possible, when you're prioritizing expenses, it's food, shelter, health, you have to prioritize those things. Shelter, you got to pay your mortgage payment. You got to live somewhere, and you're not going to live anywhere for free. Very likely.
And not only that, there's no rental market here. There's no rentals.
Mm-hmm.
So really, shelter is very, if you can keep it, definitely keep it.
But you want to know, and the sellers want to know that they're going to be able to qualify for a mortgage moving forward.
Yeah.
Because if they're in a situation now that they have to contribute a little more to closing costs because of the rates and paying points for a potential buyer, that's going to affect the money that they have available. So those are all things. It is, there's a million different ways that people's situations can be different. But I would say if you're talking to people who are on the fence or who need to sell, have them call.
All right. Yeah, because I mean, honestly, at that point, it's like I can't tell them what the best situation is for them because I don't know their finances, but you could see the overall and basically say, okay, this is where we're up against. This is what may happen. This is what may happen. And for you guys to be safe and to possibly, because I would imagine that some people have a big giant house, the insurance and the power bill and all this stuff is costing them a lot, and they're thinking, man, I wish I had a smaller, cheaper place. So, and if they can do that, then I think that would be ideal.
And that's also an opportunity for them. Perhaps they are in a position where refinance and looking at that from a debt consolidation number. Sometimes you can actually end up with a slightly higher interest rate, but a much better cash flow, by paying off other debt, especially higher interest debt. You can structure that in a way that at the end of the process, they're in a better position financially. They've still maintained all of their things. They've just restructured the debt a little bit.
So we just had a question about credit scores. And I know we were talking about it earlier, like the whole 580 that's out the door, not to be back for a minute. What are you seeing whenever it comes to, go ahead.
The program.
We lost you for a minute. What'd you say?
Okay. The programs that we are seeing basically below 620, that 580 to 620 window, there's not a lot of appetite with the investors for that at all. So we're still doing loans at 620. The cost of those loans is starting to be higher. So that 620 to 640 range is something that, we want to talk to those folks and put a plan together and see exactly where they're at and what they're doing. If you've got people who were considering doing non-QM, non-qualifying mortgages, so a lot of your self-employed borrowers who may be looking at doing a bank statement loan or something of that nature, those programs have pretty much gone away right now. Now, nobody knows what the time frame is on that, but for right now, the non-QM products are gone. If you're looking at manufactured housing, those are also not really out there right now. There's the investor market is not. Well, the investors are not, don't have a big appetite for manufactured housing either. But there are a few investors now who are starting to pull back and not doing new jumbo loans. So if you're at a higher price point, And then in some of those markets, we don't know if we're going to start seeing declining markets, especially at the higher price points at some point.
Okay. That works.
Well, any other questions you can think of or anything else, any other info that you think would be beneficial to people?
The biggest word of advice are we are still lending. You know, the mortgage business is still doing what it does. You know, we're loaning money for purchases, for refinance. I think people don't get all of your information from the media. If you've got specific questions, ask. Ask a mortgage professional. Talk to your real estate agent about what the real estate market's doing. For finance questions, talk to your lender. But ask the questions. Don't assume that you saw this on the news or Facebook or somewhere else, someone posted it, and it's just automatically the case. It could be different for your specific situation. But we're still lending money, and some of the requirements may be there may be a little bit of additional documentation involved, but we can tell you what you're going to need up front, and then we'll work through the process like that. But ask the questions if you've got them.
I have one question. So are you guys still seeing closings in 30 days, or is everything getting pushed back because it's taking a little bit longer? It's taking 45, 60 days?
We are still seeing closings within 30 days. If we can get everything, you know, if the buyers are on top of things with their documentation, and, you know, in those situations where we're going to need the seller's owner's title policy, if we can get all of that information up front in a timely manner, our process is the same. One thing that we are seeing, appraisals are taking a little bit longer, and some of that is strictly due to volume. So if we can get your appraisal early in the process, then that gives the appraiser a couple of extra days to get everything done.
All right,
So
that helps.
especially, I think their scheduling is more complicated in some cases because of people being at home and maybe not wanting other outside folks inside their house. And so there are some logistical things that are causing delays, but by and large, we're doing the same that we've always done.
Do you think that once this is done, do you see us still having a strong seller's market?
I think that the real estate market going into this quarantine was very strong. We had a lack of inventory, and there were more buyers than there were sellers. So typically what you would expect in that case is for housing prices to continue to increase. A lot of it's going to depend on what happens with new construction during this time. If they're still building and people are still buying, you know, maybe they're not buying at the same pace, but at some point when things return to normal, we're still going to have less houses available for the amount of buyers out there. That's the thought. You know, the real estate market was strong going into this. The issues that we're seeing with unemployment now are not related to the housing market the way that it was in 08 and 09.
Yeah.
So I expect it to be stronger once we start back. It's just when is everyone's business going to go back to some semblance of normal?
Yeah. Okay.
That's all the questions we had.
Yeah, that's it for now, Keith.
Thank you. You have been absolutely awesome. Do you want to tell everyone how they can get a hold of you if they have any questions?
Sure. If anybody has any questions at all, you can reach out to me on Facebook. It's Keith Lowther, and it's Lowther. My phone number is 678-229-8767. You can call me or ask me whatever questions you need. If you can't remember any of that, contact Lynn. She can put you in contact with me. And
Either one of us. Yeah.
Stephanie as well. So I appreciate the opportunity, guys. If y'all have any questions, let me know.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
Thanks, Keith.
Thanks, Keith.
Bye-bye.
All right, guys. I'm not sure how this is gonna work. If it's gonna keep you guys on here. Oh, it did keep you.
Hello.
Look at that.
We've never done this, so bear with us.
This is all brand new stuff to us, and I'm so excited it's working as smoothly as it is.
Oh, you had to go and say that.
I know it's going to crash now. I'll never be able to do this again. Thanks for hanging out with us, guys. Thanks for all of the questions that you guys asked. We appreciate it. We will probably keep trying to do these because it's really cool having other experts step in and help us out and give us actual information better than what we're reading out there.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's gotten to where you almost can't even trust what you read. I will say that if you guys, please let us know what you thought about this today.
Yeah.
And if there is anybody particular or any subject particular that you guys want us to research and find out for you, we can and we will.
Yes.
And we are actually still considered an essential business. So please don't yell at us.
Yeah, don't. And hey, by the way, on our YouTube channel, I have posted 2 of our listings. I've actually gone out and done virtual videos. If you guys know anyone that is a buyer and they are concerned about going out into the home itself because they're worried about, you know, what they might get or what's going on out there, I would be more than happy to go out and video a home for you. Just, and it won't go on YouTube or anything like that. I'll literally send it directly to you. But if you guys know anyone, I would be more than happy to go out and do that for you. Part of my job description.
And if you guys are on Apple, we can always do a FaceTime call with you when we are there at the house. So you can actually virtually walk through it with us and you can say, hey, stop there. I'm curious, what's that over there?
Right.
So we are definitely trying to find ways because real estate is so tied to how everything runs in our world and the market and interest rates, everything. Honestly, guys, real estate is such a vital part to it. But we do know that statewide, we are a shelter in place. And we hope that you guys will stay safe. And then another thing is that we are going to put on our Facebook website page, I found some important information, and it details each business and whether they're essential or non-essential and whether they can be out or cannot. So if you guys are like, well, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to be out there or not, this basically almost breaks it down to where you will know if your business. What I have noticed is if you have anything to do with the body other than medical, you're shut. You're done for a minute. If you're medical, you're good. Of course, there are lots of different things that you would be surprised that are still okay. For instance, landscape companies, they're good to go. They can get out and still work because they're really not interacting with people when they're out there working. It did say that you could still go to walk as long as, and if you're out at a park, you've just got to be 6 feet away from someone. Now, the scary part is because this is airborne, guys, the problem is if I cough, but then I walk away, you don't know that I just coughed there and you can walk through it. So that's the part, and that's the main reason probably they're saying that they want us to shelter in place, because you can't see it. You don't know when you have interacted with it. So I would highly suggest if you do have to get out and about, take your shoes off before you come in the house. You know, you may even want to, if you had a coat or something on, and you always do want, guys, just personal hygiene is so important. So make sure you do those things. But if you are in the least bit concerned about your financial situation, feel free to call us. We will keep everything confidential. Plus, we have nobody to talk to. No, I'm kidding. We will keep it confidential and help you out as best as we can. And if y'all know somebody who is struggling and needs help, maybe you know an older person that needs somebody to do something for them, let us know, because we are still able to go out legally. So if we need to pick up somebody some toilet paper, we'd be happy to do it. So
I'm going to be driving around 5 different grocery stores buying toilet paper for someone.
I've got the inside scoop.
Yes, she does.
I figured this out. You just go early in the morning when they've restocked the shelves.
Yeah.
So that is one of the things I've seen, is definitely go after they've restocked. Don't wait till the end of the day, because nothing will be there.
And you'll be stuck in line. That sucks.
Yeah. So anything else?
Nope, that's it. It's Friday. I hope that you guys all have a great day. And for those of you guys that have kids, spring break's next week. Not that it's going to be any different than what we're already doing, but it's spring break next week. Like, I don't know, put out a little baby pool with an umbrella or something and stick your feet in it next week. That way
You know
feel
what's
like you're at the beach.
Funny is, if any of you are watching TikTok, I will say the funniest thing. People are getting very creative on there because they are stuck at home. So they're doing these little skits. I saw this older couple today who learned how, okay, when is it that you're sitting there and you go, I wonder if we can do shots as the garage door goes open.
I watched that last night. Okay, I watched
These
that.
two older people too, y'all.
Oh, yeah, they're definitely retirement age beyond.
Yes.
And David got up this
Hilarious.
morning and got on TikTok and he's like, hey, check this out. Watch this. I'm like, you're a day
Sorry.
late. I already seen it.
And there was another one where they put on a huge skit. Somebody in their household has to be dealing with movies and stuff, because it was hilarious. It was like a straight soap opera that they did.
Oh, wow.
And it was all about, they ran out of hand sanitizer.
Oh, my goodness. I
was
stopped at the
hilarious.
gas station yesterday to get the kids Coke, right? And they were, Peyton wanted Dr. Pepper, Tucker wanted vanilla Coke, whatever. Y'all don't care about that. Went and checked out at the little, whatever that's called. And I did my PIN number, and I got done with my PIN number, and the guy was like, you want some hand sanitizer? I know that you didn't really want to touch that. I was like, yes, please.
I actually had somebody offer, I was like, she said, you want some hand sanitizer? I said, you selling it?
Yeah, right.
You got the
Because he had a big bottle of it too, and he's like, squirt. And I'm like, that's all I get is just that little, that's like half a squirt.
Dude, stop being stingy.
I know,
Give it up.
right?
You know, it's like toilet paper, hand sanitizer, that stuff. Man, it's going to be like gold. He told me somebody spent $109 on eBay yesterday on disinfectant spray. And I was like, just one thing of disinfectant spray. And I was like, I thought that's price gouging. He said, not when it comes to being an auction. When you got many people bidding, then it's not price gouging.
That's good to know. I'm buying a lot of toilet paper and put it up there for auction. My luck, I'd end up selling like a whole carton.
How much y'all want for this?
I was about to say,
Huh? Look at it. And guess what? It's 2-ply.
ooh, we live in
wait.
a good life up in here.
And you know what?
Our own Vanna White.
I seriously am thinking this would be great if we did this on eBay and then the proceeds went to someone who maybe lost their job. How cool would that be? So, woo! Anyway, I'm good. Yeah. Deep Thoughts by Lynn Pinkles.
Thanks for hanging out with us on a Friday. You guys are awesome. I hope that you got a lot of good information from Keith. And if you do have any questions, please look him up on Facebook. He gave you his phone number. If you don't remember any of that, ask us. We've got his info, and we will link you up.
All right.
Have a great weekend, y'all.
Yeah.
Love
Have
you.
fun.
Bye.
Bye.